Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Nikki Anthony. I want to wish you a happy new year. And we are live with our first session of the new year, talking about building healthy communication within families, right? And I'm so excited for this session because I think it's something that's very necessary for families to learn how to communicate well, because you're raising the next generation of leaders and children who will shape the world. So we want to know how to communicate. Why is healthy communication important? And so we're going to delve into that tonight. We have our resident mental health expert. He's been with us a couple times, and we're going to keep on riding this train until the wheels fall off. We got Mr. Monte King here tonight. So I want to say thank you for being here with us again and being willing to share such valuable information with our families. I'm really quickly going to read our mission and just give you a little, well, I've shared what the purpose of tonight is, but the mission of Little Hands, Big Hearts, Little People Service Organization, is to develop little people and now their families into servant leaders who think beyond themselves for the greater good through explicit and intentional opportunities for character development, selfless service to others, and community based volunteering. And so, just to begin developing these little people and not so little people, teenage children, into servant leaders, we want to make sure that we're hitting every area of their lives, right? So that is the purpose of tonight. This session falls under one of our um, I can't think of my word, but it's called Family Impacting Sessions. And so we want to make sure that we're giving programming that focuses on the family and building healthy families and healthy communities. So that's a little bit about that tonight. Um, I want to invite you to push share, hit share. Let's get as many people on as we can. Our families that are part of the organization should be tuning in. So I hope to see you all and to get some questions from you. Um, and we're going to get started. So, with that, I'm going to toggle through the slides. And Mr. King, you tell me when to go, when to stop. So, we're talking about communication on tonight. So, where did the word communication come from?
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Anthony, for having me. Again, my name is Monte King. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been a licensed clinical social worker since 2016. I am also a school social worker. I'm a K through 6 certified teacher, and I went to Florida State. I have done a lot of different things in my life, but being able to share information with families is one of the things that I really, really enjoy. I'm also a practicing clinician, but in communication is one of the things that you have in order to be able to make any kind of headway or be able to make a resolution or be able to share ideas. Communication happens in so many different ways, but communication basically it comes from the word, a Latin word by the name of commerce. It means to share. Communication is sharing ideas, thoughts, feelings, experiences, everything that's a part of everyday life. If you can go to the next slide, please. Communication has two different sides. It has healthy and unhealthy communication. Healthy communication is respectful, it's calm. Unhealthy communication includes yelling and disrespectful terms, screaming, sometimes even silence. But as we go through the night, I want you to be thinking about some things, and I put them in the form of discussion questions. And you may be able to have that thought. You may throw something in the chat related to the discussion question when we talk about it. It may be a few slides later, but we can always use that information to become better and get a better understanding of not only our definition of communication, but yours as well. What is communication behaviors? What communication behaviors did you experience growing up, and how did it affect you? A lot of times we experience something as children, and we believe that that's the only way that it is supposed to be, whether it be a calm, easygoing parent, whether it be a parent who may yell. It all is something that we take from our childhood, bring it into our young adulthood, and we also practice it as adults. Some examples that children try to use in the elementary setting is calming, correcting behavior instead of yelling. Those things help children to be able to understand and hear what you're saying. A lot of times when yelling takes place, children cut off and they stop listening anyway. If you could go to the next slide for me, please. This is one of my favorite models as to how communication works. It starts with one individual and they are sending out information. That's what that little satellite or antenna is. And it has to be sent out and it has to actually hit the receptor of the other individual. And in the process, it's called coding and decoding. And then that's what allows for communication to take place. Sometimes, have you ever had somebody just look at you and say, I don't understand? That's the problem between coding and decoding. If you can go to the next slide, please. Also, there are three main styles of communication: submissive, assertive, and aggressive. Submissive means that you're not really trying to speak up for yourself. You're being in a situation where you're not allowing what you believe and what you feel to be heard. Therefore, in a sense, you're disrespecting yourself. It makes it to where you feel unheard, unwanted, and it ends up making you feel angry on the inside. Assertive is a communication style where you speak up for yourself, but you're also willing to hear the other party's side. You're asserting what it is that you think, what you feel, but you do it in a respectful way. Aggressive communication style when people feel like they're not being heard. It's where they feel like they're not being able to communicate their ideas back and forth. So they become more and more frustrated because they get to a point to where, why are you not hearing me? What is going on? And that's where the anger comes in, and that's where the aggression comes in. Go ahead, Tatiana. Communication model is based on the following elements: information, a transmitter, a channel, a receiver, and a destination. We form the information in our mind and we transmit it in several different ways. We may speak, we may text, we may type, we may write it out. And that channel in which the signal, we have to adapt that transmission. So the person has to be able to understand what it is what's being shared with them. And that receiver, they have to be able to decode it. An example I like to give children is if I just started to speak in Spanish, I could be giving the same information and it can be coming to you the exact same way, but you wouldn't be able to decode that and receive it and put it where it needs to be in your mind in that destination. Go ahead, Dr. Anthony. Coding and decoding is one of the most important things, speaking the same language. A tree to me may be a bush to you, but if we are not speaking about the same thing, it causes that strain where you're either going to be submissive or aggressive. But an assertive communication style allows you to continue to work with that individual. And really, it takes two assertive communication styles in order to balance out. If one becomes aggressive, the assertive person usually shies away or stops talking, or they just end communication. A submissive person in that situation just stops talking altogether, and they will allow a tree to be defined as a flower or a bush. That's where you have to be able to understand what it is that you're trying to say. And if you can't, take your time. And when you're speaking to your child, because a lot of times children don't understand what it is that we're saying because they may not have 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 60, 70, 80 years worth of life to be able to help understand what is going on. Dr. Anthony. Now, building healthy communication consists of trust, being able to allow an individual to be heard, being emotionally aware. Now, the question I would like to ask you is, which of these areas is the strongest in your household and which needs growth? Consistency is building that trust and predictability, knowing the routine of how communication works. Active listening, allowing the individual to be heard. Emotional awareness, being aware of what the audience, who your audience is, and practicing your communication muscles. Earlier, before we came on, Dr. Anthony and I were talking, and I always try to share that I'm a practicing parent because you never become a perfect parent. There's no such thing. You're always practicing to become better at it. And I do fall short, but that's where you have to admit your shortcomings. And the area that I believe should be practiced the most is consistency. If you're consistent, being able to try to work with your child, work with the people in the school, your child's teachers, that allows that active listening muscle to develop, and you'll be able to practice more. In elementary kids, this is an example of daily routines and clear expectations. In middle school, it may be checking in after school and seeing if they're agitated or if anything's going on. A high school student may be just staying engaged with them, figuring out what it is that they have going on in their life. These type of communication styles build a healthy system. So when the child gets to a point that they have something that they really, really want to share, but they're afraid to, they have the environment where they feel like they can do that. Dr. Anthony.
So I kind of wanted to jump in and just thank you for highlighting this practicing parent. I threw it in the chat, but just letting parents know it's okay that you're a work in progress as long as you're progressing, right? So
Yes.
don't be the same version of yourself that you were the day before last year. Just keep growing, working on those communication skills. I also wanted to share I would love for you all who are in the audience to answer the question which of these areas is strongest in your household out of consistency, active listening, emotional awareness, and practicing? Which one is the strongest? And then which area do you need growth? And we're just being vulnerable. And I wanted to share this example. I was in a school last school year and I was going over something with a student. And while I was talking, I talk like this for the most part all the time. I don't have a very heavy voice. Even, if I could yell, is not as much a yell as probably what other people do. And so while I'm talking, I'm explaining, what I was asking of this child. And the little girl just stood and she was staring at me. And I'm like, wondering like, oh, okay, I hope she's okay. I hope she's getting me. And finally, after I finished, she raised her hand and she said, ma'am, can I tell you something? I said, sure. And she said, I like your voice. And I was like, okay. And she said something to the effect of it's so soft. And it was I guess comforting for her. And I begin to think like I wonder what she hears maybe outside of today or at home or when she's around other people that a softer tone was something that was almost amusing to her. And so I just began to think I'm a kind of person that I don't like loudness either. Like I can't handle it. So I think that's why I kind of set the temperature with my tone, with my voice. So maybe just if you could talk about um, I guess voice quality and what it is, what happens when you are yelling at children, when you're trying to communicate things to them, but you're yelling at them, like how much you lean into it a little bit, but if you could dig a little deeper there.
Now, you're jumping the gun, but I'm going to go ahead and jump on
Okay.
you. It is a it's a challenge because children a lot of times will gravitate towards the sound of a female voice. They find it more nurturing, more easygoing, more easier to accept. However, the sound of a man's voice whether it be at its normal tone, at its normal tempo, a child a lot of times feels that that is offensive and threatening. Um, it's hard to change who you are and how you speak because, in a sense, you're not really being genuine. You're not being yourself. As a man, I have to be very conscious of how my voice is being received, not only just by the students that I work with and the students that I help, but also by the parents of those individuals that I'm helping. So it's a catch 22. Some things in our society has changed to the point where a man with a softer voice is more accepted than one who has a bigger baritone voice. Because if he says anything or if he approaches a situation in a certain way, just through his tone, it is seen as domineering or aggressive, but it's just who he is. And I think a lot of that has been taken out of society. And it's being able to accept people who they are and being able to read the person. Um, it is hard not to just be real. That's a hard thing to do because you eventually the realness is going to come out. And this happens a lot of times in families. Even in the movie Lion King, the mama lion chastised Mufasa for talking to Simba a certain way because he was like he's frightened. He's frightened. But that's just how Mufasa had to be, and that's just who Mufasa was because that was his role in life. And we as a society have to work on being able to be more comfortable with people speaking the way that they normally do and being able to read whether a person is trying to be offensive, aggressive, or if they're just trying to be themselves.
Thank you for that. So, and you said it's not authentic for a man to change. I'm not saying change your voice. I'm not, but I do think, I mean, to your point, like keeping the voice that you have, but I think you still have to be mindful, of maybe volume, um, even cadence, like how fast you speak with kids, especially when you talk about this is coming from my ESC self. So thinking about children who may have a disability or children, even little children, excuse me, when they're learning, talking
Mhm.
fast, giving multiple directions, all of that, that's not going to help. Slow it down, get on their level, talk at a pace that they can understand. I think those things are helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
So we had a few responses. So the strongest, this is from Monica. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna call her Auntie Monica. Uh, Active listening, and she's working on consistency. And then we have from Cheryl, the strongest was active listening, but she's a work in progress. And then, no, the work in progress, I'm sorry. The work in progress is emotional awareness. And then Paula shared that consistency is the strongest in her family, and then emotional awareness is a work in progress that they allow their kids to vocalize a lot more than her and her husband ever did. So I love that. And then we have practicing is the strongest for, I'm gonna assume that's Zion, and then Jazz is the strongest is active listening, and then a work in progress with emotional awareness. So thank you all for chiming in. Thank you, thank you. Hit the share button also, and we'll keep on moving.
Well,
Oh,
I
that's a
came
little
across.
jumping on my end. Sorry.
Okay. Uh, let's see. I'll go ahead and burn through this, and I'll help us out.
Sure.
Uh, which components? This one is components of healthy communication. That's what it is at the top. And which components are the hardest for you during a conflict and why? The components of communication are listening, clear expression, validation, boundaries, and problem solving. Listening is an active listening, not passive listening. It's basically um, establishes rapport and sets the foundation for a solid interpersonal relationship. Clear expression ensures ideas are easily understood. Validation that basically shows that you understand and accept someone's feelings. Boundaries is personal limits defining what is acceptable. And problem solving is using clear collaborative dialogue. That means you using the same language, using the same understanding, and trying to define the issues to explore a solution. Um, Mine, I think I do the best at problem solving. I just try to figure out what it is that's going on in order to be able to make sure that we're both speaking on the same thing at the same time in the same direction. Or if not in the same direction, at least try to find common ground.
So, does validation work in tandem with setting boundaries? Like I can validate what you're saying. I hear you. I know that's a concern, but if we're talking in a parent-child dynamic, in this house, this is what we do or what we believe. Do those work together? Do they cancel each other out? Talk about that.
Boundaries and validation, in my opinion, work together
Okay.
because boundaries were established way before validation. You this is what we do, this is how we act. Validation is just basically being comfortable and clearly stating your needs. That's what validation does. It allows you to be able to say what's going on, how you're feeling, and making the other person felt heard. You know, by doing that, that's basically what people are really trying to do is just be heard. And whether they agree with your boundaries or not, they at least felt heard. That gives them validation in their communication.
So we had another comment. It says, I'm an educator in a high school setting. I have to watch my tone and my delivery when I'm speaking with my students. Students are very emotional, and you don't know what they are dealing with at home. Mr. King, you can kind of speak to that. We work with some of the same
Yes.
girls. Uh,
Um, tone, and being able to also check your own stuff at the door. That's an important thing. A lot of times when you're dealing with situations with students, especially in a non-traditional setting, they're bringing things onto campus and into the classroom that have nothing to do with education, but have everything to do with their lives. And by being able to at least allow them the opportunity to express that, that makes that validation that they're looking for to exist. And it allows, as an educator or a parent, your expectations to be heard as well. Because as soon as a child knows that you're hearing them, they slow down a lot of times and they actually start to hear you. It's never edu- education in some. I'm sorry, communication is not just a one-way street. It has to be a little give and take in there, even at the kindergarten level, all the way up through adulthood. There must be some give and take in at least what's being said and allowing the other person being heard.
if you could kind of talk a little more about checking your own stuff before you start having conversations, especially, when you're having those heart to hearts as your children, excuse me, are growing up. So now you may be in, adolescence, and that's a really rough time, but that's especially when you should be digging into healthy communication and finding out what's going on and how to problem solve. So checking your own stuff, what does that look like for parents?
Uh, I can speak for myself. Checking my own stuff is really helpful during those quality and time building moments, whether it be going bowling or going out pottery or sitting reading books in the library or helping them with their homework. That's that time that you're building that communication, those listening skills, identifying those expectations and problem solving, because they may not want to do some of those things, but you're doing those with them in order to help try to build that space, that connection, to where when time comes that there is a conflict, you got something to work off of. If it's, you can't go to the well when it's dry and expect to pull something from it. You have to be able to put something in as a parent, uh, giving them, exposing them to those different experiences, whether it be going to the park, sitting outside and just watching the sunset. It's that alone one-on-one time, identifying how to make that connection in that one-on-one time, that when they start to explore themselves and they feel like they want to flex their muscles, that's when you can be able to kind of check yourself, be like, okay, I know where this come from because it's in the gene pool. I did some of this stuff myself. Now, I can react like I was reacted upon, or I can try to do something a little different. And a lot of times we try to do something a little different. And in that process, realizing that, hey, okay, they just want to be heard. And you just sit there and you just listen. Because a 10-minute conversation can be a 2.5-minute discussion if you go back and forth and not allow them. And reflective listening. Reflective listening is when you're actually allowing the person to say what they said, say what they want to say, and then you repeat it back to them. And by repeating it back to them, you're giving them the opportunity to hear what it is that they're saying and make any clarifying statements and make sure that we're talking about the same thing. That allows you as a parent or a teacher to check your stuff at the door, because that takes away everything that you're trying to put into it and allows that child's voice to be heard. And by allowing that child's voice to be heard, say, okay, I hear you. I ain't got to agree with you, but I hear you because this is what you said. I heard you, but I don't agree with you. But this is what we're going to do.
Thank you for that. So, a little bit of what I heard you say is you can't teach a new skill in the middle of them unraveling and you unraveling or trying to check yourself. So you got to have moments where everybody is regulated, everybody's brain is online, everybody can process well, where you are introducing something new. So maybe you take time for yourself to get yourself together, or maybe you don't have that conversation right away. Do you, would you admonish parents to do that? Like if something is maybe heated, do you kind of take a moment to get yourself together before you engage in that conversation?
It depends. Some situations, yes,
Mhm.
you can put off for a moment. In some situations, it's just no. I gotta let you get it out so we can get to know. Let's move on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right. I did change the slide, so we're on the next slide already.
Okay. Oh man. Um, re- Relational benefits. Basically, the question is, how does trust show up in your relationships with your child? Uh, Trust is confidence. It's the connection and the act of bringing two things together in order to make contact. Trust and relational benefits is reduced conflict and emotional safety. Emotional safety to me is one of the biggest things here. If you can make a child feel emotional safe, they will be able to share more with you than they would in any other circumstances. Emotional safety is basically knowing that they're not going to be attacked, they're going to be heard. You're going to actually sit down and practice some active listening. You're going to be able to build that trust and be authentic with how you speak to them, not yelling, not screaming, not going back and forth, allowing them to be able to feel like everything that they want to share is able to come out and be vulnerable. And a lot of times, as parents, we have to be vulnerable as well. Being able to say, where we made our mistakes, maybe share something from the past. It may not be something that you really want to share, but it can be able something to enlighten them as to why you're thinking this way. Because a lot of times, let's be honest, the children that we have in our lives now are going to know far more than we ever will. They're going to have the book smarts, but they may not have the wisdom at this time in their lives to be able to understand the choices that they're making. So, uh, for me, trust showing up in my relationships with my children, I try to make it emotional safety. I try to give them the opportunity that we're going to agree. You know, we may disagree, but there's nothing going to get in the way with I love you.
Thank you. And I want to say I'm sorry. Everything is good on the slides, y'all. It's just, I guess, how it downloaded. So please forgive. I'll take that one. Forgive me. It's nothing I could do differently. Um, but thank you. We'll see. Okay. So,
Uh,
what are the benefits beyond the family when you have developed strong, healthy communication skills within the home?
the question for this slide is, how do you see communication skills impacting your child's future? Now, communication is something that your child, one of the few things that they're going to take out of the home first day they walk out of the door. As soon as you drop them off at daycare, whatever they heard at the house and how you communicated at home, that's what they're going to take to the daycare. And that's one of the things that we have to, as parents, be mindful that not every place out in the world operates like our home does. Um, School success, peer relationships, workplace readiness, and resolution skills. That conflict resolution skills, I believe, is number one to me. If you can be able to work through a conflict, you can be able to have school success, peer relationships, and be able to perform very well when it comes time to get a job because you'll be practicing those skills. Negotiating skills are awesome. That's part of conflict resolution. Being able to work through those motions and de-escalate themselves. Self-regulation, that's one of the parts of mindfulness that students and children and even us as adults need to be able to process and be able to make a healthy child for them in the future. Uh, Peer relationships is the exchange of information and support. Workplace readiness is mastering the soft active skills, listening, clear verbal and written communication. A lot of times it's hard to even read some students' handwork because they write like they text. They've taken out for many years, they took cursive out of school, but now they're trying to put it back in because students would look at it and be like, that's hieroglyphs. They wouldn't understand. That's part of that ability to be able to decode information. And being able to exchange information in a collaborative setting, just being able to sit, talk. And that's where a lot of conflicts occur within the young people of today. Um, is communication through a look. It was just an interested look, but they perceived as it being aggressive. They decoded it incorrectly, but did not have the skills to be able to address it in a sense as to what was really going on. And that's where we as adults in the education system and parents have to try to figure out how to get those benefits beyond the family into the community to be able to have peace in school, on the parks, in church, at work, because that's just part of what good citizenship also looks like. Good communicators.
That's so good. I love the piece about conflict resolution, and how you decode and hopefully encode. But obviously, if you have those conflicts that you don't work through well, you're not encoding right the information that you've received. So I love that part. And we're actually going to do a session really soon with Mr. King about conflict management and resolution. So stay tuned for more information. And we just got a note from Amethyst. It says technology has crippled social interaction. That's so true. And communication of any form outside of social media. That's so true. Would you like to speak to that, Mr.
Well,
King?
social media to me provides a falsehood of
Mm,
reality. I got a child going to middle school, and every middle school that I go to that provided a tour said that they want your child to have no social media going in. Now that to me that's a big statement because everything that we see as an adult is what I'm not on social media with TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all everything. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Everybody wants to put themselves out there and try to get that moment of fame for whatever act that they're doing. But a lot of times, social media and the internet has a way of telling a child that they're not good enough. My ears are too big. My hair is not right. My shape is bad. My clothes are bad. And that's just in how they receive it. So imagine that they're receiving this constant communication over and over again. And they're hearing that they're not worthy of being respected because they don't look a certain way. They don't talk a certain way. They don't dress a certain way. Not realizing that their true value comes from inside and how they communicate with others and how others receive them and how they interact with the world around them. To me, social media paints a picture to where people are living in a fantasy. And that's one of the things that you really, really have to be careful with. Anybody, say middle school, they're not ready for social media because they're still absorbing the world. They don't know what's real. They may believe was everybody can walk around like Nicki Minaj, but Nicki Minaj didn't walk around like Nicki Minaj. Not when she at home.
he said a mouthful. Oh, that's good. All right. Thank you all for the comments. Keep them coming. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We have a few more minutes left. And make sure you hit the share button so we can get some more people in on this conversation. All right. So, what are some considerations for families as far as healthy communication? Um, what it
You have
looks
to
like, all of that.
you have to consider the age and development of your child. Um, you have to be in a position where you can be able to yourself in an emotional state that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have to be in a calm emotional state. If you're on 10, your child's on 10, that's all on that's going to wash out. It's not going to equal anything. Timing is important. Being able to have a conversation at the right time. You can't correct a middle school child in public. Avoid doing that unless it's very, in an emergency. But that they're always concerned about what their friends are thinking, what their friends see. So if you can avoid correct them in groups or in public, pull them to the side, talk to them for a second, let them know, hey, we could have did this a different way, but this is the way I chose to do it in order to respect you. I just need you to respect what it is that I'm saying. And consistency. Everybody needs to be on the same page, speaking the same language, the same way. A lot of times that comes in the educational setting. One teacher allows a child to do one thing, and another teacher allows them to do something else. That creates a conflict in the child's mind. Why can I do it here and can't do it over there? It happens at home. Mom lets the child do something here. The dad lets them do something different over there. That creates a situation where the child is learning how to manipulate. Because if that's the communication that's taking place, if I can be able to get what I want from this person at this time, and then I can just change that and get that from somebody else over here this time, that's something that they take out of the home, out of the family, out into the community. So you have to be consistent with what you say, how you feel. If bedtime is a certain time, keep it at that same time. And if something comes up where it has to be something different, then that's when you talk to the child. You talk to them and say, hey, normally it's at 7:30, but today you got to go at 8 o'clock because you got a project to do. Today you got to go at 6:30 because I got something I got to do. But just being able to communicate that with them and letting them know what's going on. A lot of times children will respect that more than just do what I say because I said do it. Because they get buy-in.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. So, what about, because I was raised in this kind of home, it was more so my mom than my dad. Um, Public acting out deserves public embarrassment. So, what would you say to those kind of parents? Uh, and
Depends
it's
on
not
the
a right
age of
or wrong, but we're gonna
no.
hear from the expert.
Now I'm not the expert. I'm practicing.
You the expert on the night. We're gonna let you be the expert.
Uh, it's practicing. I'm practicing. It depends on the age of the child. Uh, an old man once, not an old man, but a wise man once told me, you got to set concrete while it's wet. You can't reshape concrete once it's dry. So that means the first few days of concrete, the first few years of a child's life, you can kind of mold it into what you want it to be. But if you know that the form is out of whack, meaning concrete, you, in order to repair it, you got to tear everything up, reframe it, and re-pour it. That's a lot of work. And sometimes it still is never going to be right because it's still a patch job. So I say if a child is acting out in public, it is to have the most private conversation you can to help them understand what it is that you're trying to say. I'm gonna leave that one at that.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't an act out child though, because it worked with me. She's like, "I'll bust your head to the white meat." I believed her every time. So, all right, we are moving on, and we're almost at the end. If
Okay,
y'all have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Any comments, and I'll share.
uh, barriers of communication, belittling, foul language, prevent the other person from hearing the speaker. Go to the next slide. Barriers effective communication. This was one I like to see. This is a family and counseling. Everybody's on their phone. You know, do you ever just talk or talk by speaking to one another? And these are barriers. If your child is used to uh, digital communication, then that's all they're going to be comfortable with. It's being able to create a child to go out into the world to be able to communicate in a variety of different ways. The more rounded a child is earlier in life, the more comfortable they'll be able to practice those different or overcoming those communication barriers earlier in life and being comfortable with it later in life. If you can go to the next slide.
Sure. And I also wanted to add, and maybe you can talk about this a little. I have my cousin, she's like my sister cousin, that's what we call each other. And she's very big on when we have family gatherings, whether it's dinner or holidays, everybody put your phones down. Like this is our time to engage with one another. So do you espouse that? Do you recommend that, like cell-free zones, cell phone free zones, cell phone free times and moments?
Oh, yes. Uh, Especially coming in the house. When you enter the home, if you're on the phone, a lot of times that lets People a lot of times trying to greet you as you come into the house. But if you're already preoccupied with something and you're not really especially if you have little children, if you're not paying them any attention, then they wander off and they become used to being dismissed because you're on the phone. I try not to come into the home on the phone. If I'm on the phone and and having a conversation, I end it before I enter the house. That way, when I enter the house, everybody has my attention. Everybody can be able to receive me, and I can receive them
That is
or
so
seek them
good.
out.
Wow. I love that. So you are giving your full self in the moment for however long y'all have that time, especially after a long day. Everybody's been at work, at school, at practice, all these different things, and you haven't had time to just be a family. So I love that. And we have one comment that says, "Yes, texting the child in the next room." All right. Is this the right slide? I think I moved
Yeah,
on.
there is effective communication. That's right. This is where we talk about the message overload, message complexity, knowledge, being able to understand jargon, and speaking to a person that lacks understanding of the subject area. You cannot give a 10-year-old, well, you can, your 10-year-old may be able to take this, 20 different things to do at one time. That's called message overload. They'll start to stand in place. They're just going to look at you and they're going to walk off. You're going to say, "Why didn't you do what I asked you to do?" You rattled off when we share too much information at one time. Their brains are still trying to process. The most you want to do is about two, and your child three things at one time, at the most. But try just doing one or two. And a lot of times you let them know it's an exercise. I'm trying to see what you can remember. This helps me to know what to do. Because sometimes you can give your child one thing to do, they come back, you give them something else to do. Why you ain't tell me to do that when I was back there? Because I didn't want to overload you. I ain't know. Well, you could have told me. Now they're letting you know that they're ready and not being too complex with what's going on. Um, a lot of times children don't really understand what they're talking about. I'm just going on social media, going back to social media. That message a lot of times is so complex because it's the nuances, the phrases that they're using, it's the jargon that they're trying to slide in to help their point get across. It's the attitude and body language. And the child is believing that that is okay, but it's just so complex and there's so much that's going on that they can't decipher what's going on. And they don't have this basically the sense to see it because they don't have the background knowledge.
I love that. So you talked about so they live in social media world. So I think that kind of speaks to why it's so important for us to have these healthy communication opportunities. Like Cheryl said, especially when you're picking children up from school or daycare, those are important moments for communication. So while you have these uninterrupted times where you can talk with the kid, because if they're getting so much information that's complex from all these different sources, and maybe they don't align with what's going on in your house. You need to have time to deprogram, unprogram, help them unlearn, and set what the standard is, and have to probably reset what the standard is in your house, what your expectations are as a parent, as a caregiver. So, thank you so much for that. Are we moving on? Or are you still on this slide?
We can move on. We can move
Okay,
on.
we have
Model.
about 2 more minutes.
Okay. This is where we want to spend a lot of the rest of our time. Then
Okay.
modeling healthy communication, respectful tone, apologizing is always okay. It doesn't mean that you're giving up your power. It just means that you're acknowledging that you're a human being. Listening, active listening, reflective listening, any kind of listening style that you want to use with your child, use it because it's all going to end up and a calm conflict resolution. Being able to keep everything even keel. Even if they're trying to take it up, back away, walk away, say, we're going to revisit this. Or you come to me when your tone changes and you feel like you can be able to talk with me. If you can't, then we'll pick it up later on, and I'll have to make the choice. But I want to give you something, and I'm giving you the opportunity to be heard because you may have a valid point that I have not considered. Respectful tone, being able to, sometimes we have hard tones and we don't know it because we got other stuff that we're saying in the back of our mind. Listen to yourself when you're talking. And if you find yourself using a harsh tone, okay, okay. Listen to, because a lot of times they'll give us something, somebody else will give us something, and then we want to give it back to them. If we see something that's coming at us, we have to have the mind awareness to be able to say, I'm not willing to receive that. You have to be, and if you make a mistake and you actually give them back what they're giving you, I apologize. That don't mean that doesn't mean what I said I don't mean, but I just apologize for how I said it.
I'm
Listening.
just talking, and I'm like, that's so good. You can't hear nothing I'm saying. I'm on mute. Could you just lean a little bit more into apologizing to a child? Because I think that's something I know I've had to learn that. When you're wrong,
Whoa,
you're just wrong. And
whoa.
sometimes it's hard, like you
Apologizing.
said, it feels like you might be giving up your power, and you don't want a power struggle or power dynamic. Like, you want a real relationship, and I don't think you can have that when you're focused on who is right and who's righter. So if you could kind of lean into that a little more, and then we'll close out.
Apologizing allows everybody to show their humanity. Apologizing allows everybody to reset boundaries. Apologizing gives you the opportunity to share that, you make mistakes. And it also allows for the conversation to begin again. A lot of times when things go to far right or the far left, you can pull it back in by saying, I apologize. But this is the key to apologies when it comes to children. They can't keep doing the same thing over and over, giving the same apology over and over. As adults, we wouldn't accept that from a child because they know what they're doing. But we have to keep in mind, children don't want to accept that from us as adults either because they're able to see us. They, if you're a parent, your child knows all of your flaws. They know you because they live with you, just like you know theirs. So it's balancing out what it is that you're trying to accomplish as a family and modeling with your child that healthy communication that you want them to be able to take out into the world so they can be able to be assertive and stand up for what they believe in without being submissive or aggressive, just being able to be themselves. Yes.
That's so good. Thank you so much. So we are at the end of tonight. Thank you all for joining in. I hope you push share. If not, please do so that we can get this out. We're all a part of the mission of building strong children and building strong families. All right, that's all of our jobs. So please push share. Um, Mr. King, if anybody wanted to see the slides, can they contact you, or is
Yes,
there a
ma'am.
way to? Okay, so if you want the slides, just DM, direct message the organization page, or you can email, and I will get those to you. Okay, or would you like to do it? Do you want me to do it? Or you want?
You can do it. It's okay.
Okay, okay. So just let me know and I'll get those to you so you can see them clearly. That's all we have tonight. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask Mr. King separately, feel free to email and I will forward those to him and get back to you with an answer or give him your information to contact you. We have a few things coming up. We are planning, well, we're not planning, we are soon attending our third HBCU spring break tour. It's March 15th through the 18th. We're going to Nashville, Tennessee to see HBCUs in Tennessee. So, really, really, really excited about that. You have to previously have served with us. So, if you have not served or your child hasn't served, a parent hasn't served as well, they cannot attend. I got to see how you act, I got to see how they interact. I got to see how you communicate. So, just keep that in mind. Um, the flyer will be going out really soon. You can actually, it's actually been posted already, so you can see that information. What the cost is very low cost. It's very affordable to make sure as many kids as want to go can go that are active participants. So keep that in mind. Hopefully, we will have Mr. King back with us next month. I'm planning a special session, and hopefully, he will be able to be a part of that. Stay tuned. If he ain't on the flyer, you know he couldn't be a part, but just stay tuned. And that's about it. We have our Teens Teach Tech team. They will be training this weekend. So if you have a moment, stop by the Edgewood Library. They will be training the community. So stop by, tell them, hey, hear their training, do their surveys so that they can be recognized. And that's about it. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us and good night.
Good night.